We're going to talk about this in an upcoming seminar, but I wanted to share this with you. I'm grabbing shots from screen caps from around the universe, but Baker Botts has maybe 100, it says 130 intellectual property lawyers. That's a pretty big intellectual property firm. And yet when you get to beyond their home page, the selling, the explanation of that practice falls off a cliff. So while they have an exciting homepage and they're delivering lots of news and other information, when I get into the belly of the site itself, I really get no information. And this intellectual property firm is competing with this intellectual property firm. And imagine that that's their homepage for that practice area. So when you get down to a practice area, if you've got a practice area worth having, you need to give that as much juice in the design of your website as you do to your homepage or other important aspects of your site.
So let's take a look at thought leadership. How important is it? We asked, have you ever visited a professional services firm's online library or resource center to search for articles and white papers written by the firm's professionals? 2/3 have, most of them search by topic, some by keyword, practice area, title, and almost never by author.
So good heavens, thought leadership is what drives marketing for professional services. The Big Four, of course, are past masters at it. This is what they do every single day, but they've got an entire team that's developing this kind of information. This is just one on PwC's site, one of many research reports that they have, and it just cycles through a number of research reports. But what you'll notice right away is it's a focus on the buyer. It's not a focus on the seller. It's not, I've got hours to sell, therefore buy my hours. It's what do you need today and how can we help you? Same thing for McKinsey & Company. When you go into their ideas section, you'll find that same kind of information, but you've also got it right on their home page about can the dollar survive as the world's global reserve currency, et cetera, and other information that's important to their buyers. But you can hie on over into another professionals or another service firm, to Bechtel, one of the world's largest construction companies, and learn that they're also telling you about research papers, thought leadership in technology, the Bechtel Technology Journal, and how to extend the life cycle of a nuclear power plant. So you're really dealing with giving away information in order to get clients on board. And then Goldman Sachs as well, an investment house. It's really about giving information about what you can use in order to do business with Goldman Sachs.
We wanted to look at those old and new site features to see what's important these days. We asked, how often do you use an extranet set up by a professional services firm? And we found basically they're not being used much. There has been some discussion about whether that's a matter of design and functionality not being good enough, not being exactly what they need as opposed to appeal of the idea, but the fact is they're just not using them.
Well, it's kind of interesting because there was a big brouhaha about extranets, and it still pops up fairly commonly, but it's not gained traction over the past 10 years. Here's something where you would have expected extranets to be a standard part of everybody's day-to-day business, and they simply aren't.
How about videos? That's kind of new. Have you ever watched a video on a professional service provider's website? Well, 1/4 have. We did some other studies in 2009 where we found the percentage is a bit higher, 27 to 33%.
But what we like is that I'm worried less about the 75% who say no than admiring the 25% that have said yes. Video on a website is certainly like a brush fire, occurring on every single website that we design, that's for sure, and we find it on almost every other website. So video, when we know it's that quadrant of the green quadrant is going to grow, we also wanted to get some other information about what kind of videos people would watch.
And we asked how much time they'd be willing to devote to such a video, and we found 1 to 3 minutes in length is about ideal. In other studies we did in 2009, we found 59 to 88% of the respondents saying that they would spend 1 to 3 minutes.
We would like to encourage more creativity in the videos. These are actually very good videos from Ropes and Gray. that were, but essentially are talking heads. But they're well edited, well shot. They're nicely done, but it's 7 or 8 minutes at a clip of listening to folks talking about the work at the firm. And one rolls into the next, and if you go from one website to the next website, they're they become the same thing all over again. It's one vast similar terrain. But if you were to go over to the Choate Hall and Stewart website, you'd see some very, very different kinds of videos. Here's a very, very quick clip that's just a commercial from a little video clip from the 50s that had a voiceover on it that was funny, that talked about taking a job at Choate. But this gives you more information about Choate as a personality and as a brand than 15 minutes of an associate talking about what it's like to work at Ropes & Gray.
Let's talk about social media, Web 2.0. Do you use the following networking sites? Well, 2/3 are using networking sites, and more than 1/3 are paying attention to LinkedIn. They're using it primarily professionally, but also personally. And of course, Facebook is #1 personally.
Oh, I grabbed this ghetto image off the net the other day, and I apologize for it, but I thought it was cool. It's U.S. Internet news users who currently maintain a social networking site's profile, and of course the millennials are up at 77% news, big news. But you've got matures, I guess those are seniors, or these are the oldest people in this survey. Still, 1/3, 36%, have a social networking profile. Boomers up there at 50%, and we know that they're growing faster than any other category. So this is something that, once again, behavior is changing, your buyers are changing, they're online in ways that they weren't online 10 years ago or even 5 years ago.
Do they value blogs? We asked how often they read blogs, and 3/4 said they read them, with more than 1/3 reading them on a daily or weekly basis. So someone in your firm needs to be blogging.
Just a couple of examples. A blog that I go to frequently, Kevin O'Keefe's Real Lawyers That Blogs, that's frequently passed around. The information that he comes up with is frequently shared across the internet, and it makes him a very visible personality. You go to another one, this is really more of obviously a business working blog, California Employment Counseling. And obviously when you've got employment law that's so different in California than the rest of the country, and you've got a major employment practice as Morgan Lewis does, it makes all the sense in the world to have a California blog.
We asked if they've ever signed up for an RSS news feed. 3/4 have not.
That's an area where we thought we'd find more people have, but because it requires an actual, that you actually go in and sign up, it's yet another one of those things that hasn't gained traction over the past 10 years that everyone was excited about 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and it's just not happening. We moved outside of, we wanted to see what's going on with mobile. We know that mobile accounts for only about 3% of advertising, other kinds of activity, net activity, but we were looking for what people do when they've got their iPhone or they got their BlackBerry. What are they doing on it?
So we asked, do you view or listen to online content on your mobile phone? And those who do said they mostly use it for news, music, photos, navigation, and apps. And 3/4 are not yet on board, but more than half who view online content are using iPhones. When we asked to use an iPhone, 15% said they do, and those in companies with less than $500 million in revenues, 1/5 punch into their iPhones. So we've seen how they find professionals. Let's switch to choosing. We asked, how likely is it that your decision to try out a new firm would be influenced by how effectively that firm uses all aspects of the internet, that is Wikipedia, Facebook, blogs, etc. 1/3 say they are likely to be influenced by your use of all aspects of the internet, and that's 1/3 who say they would try out a firm. So all other things being equal, getting the work could actually hinge on your digital presence.